An exclusive look as police dismantle a drug lab in rural Ontario.
Tonight, taking down a major magic mushroom operation. The effort to keep the illegal drugs off the street. Good evening. It began with the York Regional Police investigation near Stouffville.
But it led them to an even bigger drug operation south of Guelph, and we were there as officers moved in. CTV's John Musselman has tonight's top story.
This was the view from the CTV helicopter when York Regional Police moved in on an illegal drug lab today. It was discovered in a small building at the back of a rural property just north of the 401, about 25 kilometers from Guelph.
We're here as a result of an active investigation that stems from a search warrant that the York Regional Police Gun, Gang and Drug Enforcement Unit executed back in August of this year. As a result of that investigation, we were led here and a search warrant was executed at this property, and investigators found an active clandestine lab at the rear of the property where psilocybin, commonly known as magic mushrooms, are being grown.
Police say the original investigation began at a residence in Stouffville in August. It was a small operation, but it led them to this larger production facility. Emergency crews, including the local fire department, were on standby as a precaution. Specially trained officers were called in to dismantle the lab. Investigators say they are seeing an increase in the production and sale of magic mushrooms right across the GTA.
We've noticed an uptick in the amount of retail magic mushroom stores that are being opened up. These locations are operating illegally. The production, trafficking, and possession of magic mushrooms or psilocybin is absolutely illegal, and I think that some citizens or members of the public are out there are shopping at these places, maybe not realizing that these people are committing a crime by selling it to them, and they are also committing a crime by possessing that drug.
Before moving into this rural address, police executed a search warrant at a residence in Hamilton last night. They recovered 100 pounds of magic mushrooms with a street value of more than $450,000.
Well, to somebody who is not used to the product, it could be extremely dangerous, especially if somebody were to, for example, get behind the wheel of a car. It's a hallucinogenic drug.
Police say this is an active investigation. No charges have been laid yet. Anyone with information about these illegal drug labs is asked to call York Regional Police or Crime Stoppers. John Musselman, CTV News.
Federal officials say they're gaining ground in the ongoing battle against auto theft.
Border agents sharing how they're tracking and intercepting stolen vehicles to put a dent in a crime plaguing the GTA and communities across the country. CTV's Rahim Ladani joins us live with the details. Rahim.
Michelle and Nathan, good evening. The positive news is that auto thefts are down 19% so far this year. Compare that to the same period last year. The issue, though, is that there are still a number of areas where the federal government, provincial government, and car manufacturers are not seeing eye to eye. Take a good look at this shipping container. Inside is a Mercedes SUV and Toyota Tundra, stolen vehicles that were destined for overseas but intercepted.
And we want to make sure our constituents feel safe at home. That's what it comes down to.
This is one example of Canada's National Action Plan to combat auto theft in action. While these vehicles were seized by York Regional Police, Canada Border Services Agency is also making a dent in this criminal activity. So far this year, 1,945 vehicles have been recovered. It's an improvement when you compare that to the 1,800 that were recovered in all of last year. In the GTA, 620 vehicles have been recovered in 2024.
When I've sat down with Halton Police, they've told me that nothing can replace two things: parking your car inside and using a steering wheel lock.
It's been 5 months since this action plan was launched. However, there are still areas of glaring shortcomings. Local police services are calling for bail reform, saying many alleged auto thieves are quickly back on the street and reoffending. However, federal ministers are pointing the blame at provinces, including Premier Doug Ford.
One of the issues is that our courthouse is literally crumbling. It was cancelled by the Ford government when they came in. And one of the issues is that bail hearings are not being able to be held in Halton Region.
The federal government is also facing pressure to force car manufacturers to install and modernize anti-theft devices. However, Canada's Minister of Transport only going so far to say they're working on updating updating standards through collaboration.
Those best practices will be taken into account. We speak to manufacturers regularly, and we are on top of how we can make our regulatory regime and our legislative regime under the criminal code as secure as possible for vehicle owners.
Pledging the government will be sharing some changes at some point next year. Now, just a short while ago, we received a statement from Minister McGregor, who is the Associate Minister of Auto Theft and Bail Reform. This is Ontario's minister. And I'm going to read this statement for you. He says, as the federal government is exclusively responsible for the criminal code in Ontario, they write the instruction manual. Pawning off their inherent responsibility is putting people in Ontario and Canada at risk. The federal government must take accountability for the system they broke. Enough is enough. And so you can see by that statement, there continues to be a serious disconnect between the Ontario government and the federal government with who is responsible for reforming the bail system. Reporting live, I'm Rahim Ladani. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Rahim. Also tonight, creating jobs, tackling congestion, and building more affordable homes. The city unveils its 10-year plan to improve livability. We take a closer look.
But first, let's peek outside for our first look at the forecast. The sun is setting. We're losing light fast, and the forecast conditions are dry tonight, but you will want to take note there is a frost advisory in effect. Yes, we said it, the first of this fall season, at least for us here in Toronto. Jess Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Frost means cold.
It is going to be cold, and the sunset time today, 6:31, so it is cold and dark. But the good news is it gets warmer as we head in towards the end of the week, so some light quite literally at the end of the tunnel. But for now, it is a little cool out there, and we are dipping down to some chilly temperatures as we round out our Wednesday. We're sitting around 9 to 11 degrees around the Golden Horseshoe and generally right across southern Ontario. And that northwesterly wind that we've had over the last 2 days or so is going to become southerly, and that will change things into the day tomorrow. We're at 10 through the islands, 9 through Pearson, still that northwesterly wind. But tonight, it is 2 degrees. It is going to be cool, but at least it's clear. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast. Right now, it's back over to Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Jess. We turn to the long-term vision to build Toronto's economy.
The mayor says if the city is going to succeed, it has to be a more affordable place to live. CTV's Natalie Johnson has details on the plan to try and do that.
In a city where the cost of living has only gone up, there is a feeling among some that more needs to be done to ensure Toronto remains the place to live, work, and play.
Seems to me things just went through the roof about 10 years ago and nobody was doing anything about it.
People that you do put in office, hopefully they have our best interests at heart.
There you go.
The city today unveiling a 10-year action plan for the economy, acknowledging that Toronto is at a crossroads and livability is at stake.
We are at a pivotal time, a pivotal moment of our city. Toronto is Canada's economic engine.
The goal is to double the city's GDP within 25 years. One of the top priorities, ensuring the resilience of Main Streets through small business breaks and supports.
It's no secret. On Main Street, the recovery is still not happened out there. And this is an opportunity to go back to the premise of BIAs, where effectively, with the rising tide, all boats rise.
Alongside a renewed focus on quality local jobs via new partnerships and programs.
Jobs that bring living wages and the ability to house oneself. And we have to increase our global competitiveness to attract the top talent and investment from every corner of the globe.
Boosting support to the city's specialized sectors through tax breaks and other incentives.
We haven't really been able to figure out how to keep our most talented immigrants here, and also to keep our Canadians from having a brain drain to across the southern border. So I think we have an opportunity to create a quality of life that's going to make this a wonderful place for people to stay and work.
It, of course, all comes at a cost. The city acknowledging that last year's new deal with the province significantly relieved budget pressures, looking now to build on that with a long-term funding agreement by 2030, allowing for what the city calls ambitious investment in the Toronto of tomorrow. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
Still ahead, Prime Minister Trudeau testifies at the foreign interference inquiry, telling the commission he has the names of Conservative members engaged in or at risk of foreign interference. But the Conservative leader says he's lying.
But first, Ontario is bracing for a huge surge in the demand for electricity.
A new forecast predicts the need for power will rise 75% by the year 2050. Is the province ready? CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris joins us live with details of the plan to keep up. Siobhan.
Well, the Minister of Energy and Electrification isn't ready to spill the beans just yet, but he says it's clear based on this higher projection of energy demand that what is already in the works needs to be stepped up.
From the streets of cities big and small to the shop floor, Ontario needs more power to keep everything humming. A new forecast from the province's electricity system operator says our energy needs are rising faster than anticipated. Last year, the IESO projected the demand for energy would rise by 60% by 2050. A year later, that number has soared to a 75% increase.
This demand forecast is going to raise the game of everyone in government to really rally with a more ambitious call to action.
Industry accounts for a major piece of the energy pie, including new electric vehicle battery plants coming online in the next few years. They account for a 58% rise in demand by 2035, requiring an energy boost that could power the city of Toronto. More Ontarians sliding behind the wheel of an electric car is a driver in the need for more power, accounting for 31% of new energy demand by 2035. There's another spike that's caught energy officials off guard. That's power to run data centers that fuel AI technology.
Data center demand alone is forecast to make up 4% of provincial demand in Ontario by 2035.
The Minister of Energy and Electrification says he'll unveil a vision to tackle the rising demand in the coming days.
My concern is the government's going to choose an expensive, dirty approach, which is ramping up gas plants.
Stephen Lecce doesn't think Ontario can afford to cut natural gas out of the mix.
Natural gas is an insurance policy that is important for Ontario, particularly during peak periods where we need that energy that we just can't deliver to industry and people.
Lecce talks up investments in nuclear energy, which critics have attacked as expensive and risky.
We're not going to pose specific energy resources based on ideology. We will not force energy projects on unwilling communities.
Instead, promising an integrated energy plan
that builds more affordable and reliable and, yes, clean energy for our province.
The head of the IESO doesn't see a particular year on the calendar that could be a pinch point when it comes to energy supply. She says that's because of these annual forecasts. It allows the province to plan ahead. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Metrolink has parted ways with 2 members of its senior management team. According to an internal memo obtained by CTV Toronto, a chief planning officer and a chief operating officer of Rapid Transit were both let go. Metrolink says their mandate has grown in scope in recent years, and there was a need to evolve and adapt. Phil Tabner has been tasked with getting the long-delayed Eglinton and Finch West LRTs into service. The most recent update from Metrolinx on the Eglinton Crosstown means the line won't open this year, and there is still no indication on when it will be in operation.
Ontario Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie is calling on the Ford government to renegotiate its Ontario Place deal.
This mega spa is a mega scam. They're paying $1 billion less in rent than the Treasury Board guidelines or fair market value would require. He's also giving away hundreds of millions of your tax dollars to build a parking lot. And he's making you foot the bill for maintenance and work to prepare the site for construction. And I'm here today with my colleagues, Dr. Shamji and Stephanie Bowman, to expose this terrible deal.
The Ford government released the terms of its 95-year lease with Therma earlier this year. It includes the right to terminate the lease early with 5 years' notice after the facility has been in operation for 10 years. Meanwhile, the Ontario Green Party says the Premier is focused on the wrong priorities.
What people are telling me everywhere I go over and over is that they want us to address the housing crisis because that's what's driving the affordability crisis. They want to be able to have access to a family doctor. They want their kids to be in a classroom that's not overcrowded. They want to be able to save money by saving energy. Those are the real issues that the people of Ontario are concerned about, and the Premier is clearly out of touch.
The Ontario legislature is set to resume next week.
One issue sure to take center stage is accessing family doctors in the province. It's something the Ontario Medical Association wants addressed as it releases solutions to fix what it's calling a healthcare crisis. CTV's Beth McDonnell has the details.
It breaks my heart when I have to say, the practice is full.
Dr. Dominic Nowak is a family physician and president of the Ontario Medical Association. Today, he and his colleagues made an impassioned plea to bolster the number of family doctors across the province.
We're seeing these numbers all across the province, but Toronto is hard hit as well. The GTA is hard hit. We're seeing nearly 1 in 4 people who can't find a family doctor.
According to the OMA, there are more than 2.5 million people without a family doctor now, a number they predict will grow to 4.4 million in less than 2 years.
We're paying for it eventually, right? People are paying for it in terms of their health, and then our healthcare system is paying for it by supporting these more expensive types of care.
The OMA is concerned about the lack of people who want to be family doctors, the burden and cost of running practices, and hours of paperwork taking them away from patients.
33 months from start to finish, and it was not a fun 33 months, I can tell you.
Stephen Steele knows how critical having that family doctor is. His referral for hip surgery got lost in the system for 2 years. Eventually, he went back to his family doctor for help.
If I hadn't had a GP in the first place, it would have been a disaster.
A spokesperson for Ontario's health minister says since 2018, the government has added 12,500 physicians to the workforce, a 10% increase. The government also points to expanding the medical education system and investing in primary care teams to free up thousands of hours for patients.
Let's support those practices. Let's let doctors focus on being doctors so that we can attach everyone in this province to a family doc.
The OMA says it has been working with government, but says ambition and political will is needed to get the system back on track. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
We have breaking news and some sad news from the world of entertainment. Former One Direction singer Liam Payne has passed away. Police in Buenos Aires say the 31-year-old fell from the 3rd floor of a hotel. While Payne was best known as a member of One Direction, he also released a solo album after the band broke up. Payne was also the father of a son who was born in 2017.
Explosive allegations rocked the public inquiry into foreign interference today as the Prime Minister took the stand.
Justin Trudeau revealed that classified intelligence reveals parliamentarians within the Conservative Party may be helping foreign countries meddle in Canadian democracy. CTV's national correspondent Judy Trin reports.
Witnessed this morning as the Prime Minister just...
Backed by classified information, the Prime Minister dropped his bombshell under oath.
Because I am Prime Minister and privy to all these informations, I have the names of a number of parliamentarians, former parliamentarians and/or candidates in the Conservative Party of Canada who are engaged or at high risk of, or for whom there is clear intelligence around foreign interference.
The warnings about that came in a June parliamentary report. Names were redacted, so were party affiliations, until now. Trudeau said he directed CSIS to inform all party leaders, but Conservative Pierre Poilievre refused to get the necessary security clearance to protect his party.
To not get those classified briefings means that nobody in his party, not him, nobody in a position of power knows the names of these individuals and can take appropriate action.
In a statement, Poilievre deflected responsibility and accused Trudeau of lying to distract from a Liberal caucus revolt against his leadership. The political maneuvers come amid a war of words on the global stage. Both India and Canada have expelled top diplomats after the RCMP publicly accused the Indian government of silencing its critics by orchestrating a campaign of drive-by shootings, home invasions, extortion, and murder in Canada. On the stand, Trudeau revealed that in 2023 at the G20, he appealed to Prime Minister Narendra Modi to help Canada investigate the murder of Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
He responded with the usual response from him, which is that we have people who are outspoken against the Indian government living in Canada that he would like to see arrested.
Under cross-examination, Trudeau was asked if there are Liberal parliamentarians at risk of foreign interference. Trudeau responded yes, and in other parties as well. But the Prime Minister pointed out that he's taken action to deal with the problem within his party. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
All four major Canadian political parties are requesting an emergency meeting on those RCMP allegations against India. It would include assessing how Ottawa can best respond. The British government says India should cooperate with Canada's investigation into the accusations. The UK Foreign Ministry is in contact with Ottawa about the latest developments and argues that India's cooperation with Canada's legal process is the right next step. Yesterday, the U.S. State Department said it had long been asking India to cooperate with Canadian authorities.
In the Middle East, Israel struck southern Lebanon and Beirut's southern suburbs today, killing at least 21 people. The Lebanese Health Ministry reports there were 138 Israel attacks in the past day and says more than 2,300 people have been killed in the past year of the conflict, while over 11,000 have been injured. The UN says the fighting has driven 1.2 million people from their homes in Lebanon. Israel has said its increasing military activity is intended to push Hezbollah militants back from the border and destroy their weapons caches.
The Canadian government issued a statement following recent events in the Middle East. It reads in part, Canada condemns the Israel Defense Forces' increasing attacks on civilian infrastructure in northern Gaza, as well as its attacks on the United Nations interim force in Lebanon positions along the Blue Line. These are unacceptable and must immediately stop. The increasingly dire humanitarian situation is unacceptable and continues to deteriorate due to a significant decrease of aid allowed into Gaza. An increase in humanitarian aid is desperately needed to end this suffering. Ottawa also condemned attacks by Hamas and Hezbollah and reiterated calls for an immediate ceasefire.
Palestinians who have fled Gaza will receive transitional financial assistance and supports after they arrive in Canada. These funds will help cover basic needs such as shelter, food, and clothing. The federal government will also offer temporary health coverage for 3 months, as well as language training and the opportunity to apply for study and open work permits without fees.
Ukraine's president presented his plan for victory today, calling on the allies to take urgent steps to bolster his country. Volodymyr Zelensky told the Ukrainian parliament his plan includes receiving permission to use Western-supplied longer-range missiles to strike military targets inside Russia and an unconditional invite to join NATO now. The Secretary General of the alliance says he's aware of the details of the plan and is in touch with member countries on the next steps. Zelensky will attend a NATO defense ministers meeting tomorrow. In another development, U.S. President Joe Biden announced a $425 million security assistance package for Ukraine today.
Here at home, the National Poppy Campaign will begin on October 25th, a week from this Friday.
Every year, from the end of October until Remembrance Day, tens of millions of Canadians wear a poppy. We honor those who served, those who are serving today, and those who never made it home.
Today, the first poppy was presented to the Right Honourable Governor-General Mary Simon at Rideau Hall. The Royal Canadian Legion says the event marks the ceremonial start of its annual remembrance period. The Poppy campaign launches each year on the last Friday in October. Funds donated locally are distributed locally to help support veterans and their families and communities and to promote remembrance.
Our lunar neighbor will take center stage tonight as the GTA gets set for the closest supermoon of the year. The third supermoon of 2024 will be more than 357 kilometers from Earth. So that will make it appear bigger and brighter than in August and September. And there's another reason to look skyward tonight. A comet is in the neighborhood. It is now prominent in the northern hemisphere after wowing stargazers in the southern hemisphere. NASA says the moonlight will wash out some of the comet's tail, but it will still be worth a look. The fourth and final supermoon of the year will be November 15th.
In other news from way up above, Dutch researchers have discovered a distant galaxy that has similar characteristics to the Milky Way. It is much younger than our galaxy, but already shares its rotation and structure. Rather than appearing small and chaotic like other early galaxies, the light reaching Earth from this galaxy was emitted just 700 million years after the universe was formed nearly 14 billion years ago.
And the spacesuit astronauts will wear on NASA's Artemis 3 moon mission were revealed today. They were designed by luxury fashion house Prada and commercial space company Axiom Space, and will be made of a material offering protection from extremely high temperatures and lunar dust. Officials say Prada's knowledge of textile production and sewing techniques help bridge the gap between functionality and style. The first astronaut moon landing since 1972 is scheduled for 2026.
A bite to eat and the option to help someone in need. Coming up, the new way to pay it forward, catching on in one corner of the city.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, there is a new scam that is targeting your email inbox. Suspects claim they have images of you looking at inappropriate websites and say if you don't pay them thousands of dollars, they'll tell your family and friends. I'll have the details. That's just ahead.
And after a slightly cooler start to the week, we are warming up and we're climbing above seasonal into the 20s by the time we head in towards the weekend, and the heat not going anywhere for a couple of days. Coming up, I'll have a look at your full long-range forecast, and stay with us. We have another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Police are warning about a new scam involving criminals pretending they have images of people looking at inappropriate material online.
It's being called a sextortion scam because they say if you don't pay money, they'll release embarrassing images to your family and friends. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Nathan and Michelle, the emails are being sent out across the province and people are shocked to receive them. They claim you're being spied on and that they have your name, phone number, and photos of your home. It's all a scam to get you to send criminals money.
It is very unnerving. It's very upsetting.
A woman we'll call Alexandra asked us not to identify her, but she wanted to share an unsettling email she received that said she had been recorded looking at pornography. The email said, "I've got access to all your emails, contacts, and social media accounts." She was concerned because they did have a lot of her personal information.
They had my name, address, email, cell phone, and a picture of the street on which my home is.
She was told her computer had been taken over remotely and compromising video and images of her had been recorded.
They had my browsing history and they had photos of me viewing inappropriate sites, and that they were going to disclose that.
The email also said, "I can't even fathom the humiliation you'll face when your colleagues, friends, and family see it, and I will wipe everything clean once you send payment." She was told to send $1,900 US using a Bitcoin machine.
The tone was extremely threatening and urgent, like you have to act now or else.
But Alexandra says she has never looked at inappropriate websites, knew it was a scam, and contacted police.
They're scammers. Their entire living is made on trying to deceive people and trick people into giving them money.
York Regional Police issued a warning about sextortion scams, saying criminals may be harvesting information from data breaches. Once they find your address, getting a photo of your home is easy to do.
All these people have to do once they have your home address is throw it into Google Maps, and they're able to get a very good and oftentimes very recent photo of your property.
It's advisable to limit the amount of personal information you share online. Police say if you get one of these emails, do not provide payment and do not respond. Run a virus or malware scan of your computer and report the email to police. And Bitcoin payments are difficult to trace, so once you send money to a fraudster, it's almost impossible to get it back. Anytime you're asked to pay something that way, be careful. It should be a huge red flag. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Well, if you have allergies, first frost is a good thing, but it also means it's getting chilly out there.
I love that you're doing the glass half full. Yeah, that's great, because people have been suffering. And, you know, yeah, we have a little frost, but it's going to warm up. We've been talking about this. The weather forecast looks really exceptional for October.
It does. And even today, if you looked outside, you would see somebody wearing a winter coat and somebody else in shorts. And they are both very valid for how they were dressing and feeling, because we have a little bit of everything today. But really into the day tomorrow, it's when it starts. It's a slow but steady, I think I can, towards seasonal and then above into the 20s before the week is all said and done. So if you like the warmer weather, I have that for you, and then some over the next couple of days. We say so long to sweater weather and soup season, and we're back into t-shirts potentially. But it's been beautiful, and if you are a fan of the fall colors, it's been great weather yesterday, today, a little cool, but with the right clothing, okay, to get out and check out all the fall colors out there. And you noticed a slight difference this morning, right? It was still cool, don't get me wrong, but it was definitely better than it was yesterday. It'll be better tomorrow, and then by the time we get to the end of the week and the weekend, it'll be fantastic. We're holding on to temperatures that are more reminiscent of the late summer season than so much the mid-fall season. Tonight, as we kind of wrap things up, it does get a little cool out there, and right now we're sitting at about 9 degrees, 12 through Windsor, 8 in Ottawa, and almost everybody kind of in that upper single-digit range, low double-digit range, so it is comfortable with the right layers. As we head into this evening, just 2 degrees, we should be at 5. The northwesterly wind significantly lighter, so that bite, that chill to the air won't be as intense, but we are looking at some minus temperatures, -4 for our friends out through Bancroft, -3 in Waterloo, and the same through Peterborough. We are looking at some frost advisories. That includes us here in the city and a good portion of the Golden Horseshoe. Some gaps, but it kind of extends down towards Niagara and then in towards that southwestern corner. So it's a little cold tonight. But as we head into the day tomorrow, we return to seasonal, and we'll see a change in wind direction. Still very light, but a southerly wind will start this return to warmer weather as we head in towards the end of the week. There's really not much going on. We're just holding on to high pressure, a very stable air mass. And as we step in towards your Friday, your Saturday, your Sunday, if you haven't got your pumpkin yet, or you're trying to think about putting up decorations, this is probably the weekend to do it because the weather is super agreeable. As we head through the rest of our evening, not a whole lot in the way of cloud cover. It is, yes, obviously a little cool out there, but as we step into the morning, things will start to warm up. We go throughout our Thursday, there's not much going on in the way the forecast radar board, and then I promise you it still works. There's just absolutely nothing going on in the way of cloud cover, whether it is low or high level clouds. Now, as we head in towards the weekend, it starts to get really warm, and then it stays warm right through to honestly the beginning of next week. So if, again, you have outdoor plans, pumpkins, apples, all those activities, this is really the time to get it done. We're holding on, again, fairly seasonal throughout the day. Tomorrow, a little cool into the evening, and then it begins. We climb up to 18 degrees by the time we get to Friday, and then the weekend. 20 degrees both days, brilliant sunshine. It's not giving fall, that's for sure. As we head in towards the beginning of next week, we're looking at 21 on Monday. Tuesday night, 12 degrees. It is not feeling like fall at all. Michelle, some things back over to you.
Thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
Also tonight, a tiny addition to a major display. British Columbia is now part of the Little Canada exhibit. We take a look at the scaled-back version of the West Coast.
A new painting on a bridge in Brampton is highlighting the work of an artist living with autism.
It also celebrates a new training program with Peel Police. Here's CTV's health reporter, Pauline Chan.
Not only are we celebrating Autism Awareness Month for the month of October, we're celebrating an incredibly gifted young man, gifted in the way that he expresses himself through art.
But I really can't think of a more appropriate canvas for this great piece of art other than the bridge that sits right behind us here. Because bridges between the police and the autistic community are something that we've been really trying to build.
For the past couple of years, Peel Regional Police have been working with the autism community to build understanding and develop new practices.
It gives them a new level of awareness, a new level of confidence, and gives them a new level of skills and development that help them communicate and recognize the signs of autism. It also helps them in situations when an emergency happens.
So that we don't assume that people understand when we use our words, and that we also don't necessarily touch someone right away if there's a concern, or we want to make sure that that person feels comfortable, and that we also want to respect that there's different ways to communicate.
And the success of the new policy is in the numbers, cutting the number of violent confrontations between the police and the community by almost half. Nina Jane says the process to create this artwork was also innovative, bypassing the need for written submissions.
To allow NIAM to do this beautiful public art installation without having a formal written art submission, assessing NIAM solely on the accomplishments of him as an artist. Without realizing, she created a groundbreaking way to assess art submissions.
You believe in me, I love you, Nia Jane.
Sometimes when I tell people Niam has autism, they say, I'm sorry. And I say, don't be sorry. We love and accept Niam, and we are proud of him just the way he is.
The painting is completed, but the communication between police and the community is ongoing. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Peak inflation numbers 2 years ago had a significant effect on food insecurity in this country. Stats Canada says 15.6% of households experienced some level of food insecurity in 2022. That was up from 11.6% in 2018. The agency says there was also an increase in severity as more households reported moderate or severe food insecurity.
It is a view of our country through a very tiny lens.
Talking about the Little Canada exhibit near Yonge and Dundas Square, and like our nation itself, its miniature version is growing. CTV's Scott Lightfoot explains.
From Rogers Pass through the Selkirk Mountains to the soaring skyline of Vancouver to the majestically lit legislature in Victoria, it is the vast beauty and splendor of British Columbia presented in a much smaller scale.
Detail's fantastic. You think of the amount of time that's being spent to make every aspect of it realistic. It's incredible.
To create Little West Coast, the latest addition to Little Canada, located in the heart of downtown Toronto, 30 people spent a full year designing and building the iconic landscapes and locations of British Columbia. Just deciding what and what not to include took 6 months alone.
In the case of Little West Coast was how much do we give to Vancouver? If we give more to Vancouver, it means less of other parts of West Coast.
From fog coming off the mountains to a search and rescue helicopter in action, a school of orcas off the island, to beaches covered in driftwood. You can see the Capilano Suspension Bridge, Victoria Harbour, Gastown, and Granville Island, all in a matter of minutes.
This is the BC Place.
When Little Canada began back in 2011, most of the building was done using modified models, but now most of the work is done through 3D printing. For BC, more than 8,000 trees were made by hand, and though model trains may seem like the easiest part of the project, the SkyTrain had to be made from scratch. There are also hidden homes of famous British Columbians, from Emily Carr to the childhood residence of Ryan Reynolds. Everything here is done in a 1:87 scale.
It's a heck of a job to put all of Canada into one building. They do a pretty good job.
Building a small-scale replica of this country has been the passion of founder Jean-Louis Brennickmeyer for nearly 15 years.
Canada has so much to celebrate and so much to offer, and it's one place where Canadians and even visitors who will never have the opportunity to see all of the country in their lifetime, to be able to come here and see all of the country from coast to coast to coast.
Beginning with Toronto and building across the country, the ever-growing exhibit has been open to Canadians and international visitors since 2021, allowing people to travel across the world's second-largest country in just a few steps. Scott Lightfoot, CTV News.
After the break, the Leafs shoot for 3 straight wins tonight when they take on the LA Kings at Scotiabank Arena, but they could be without one of their best players. We have a preview.
We're here as a result of an active investigation that stems from a search warrant that the York Regional Police Gun, Gang and Drug Enforcement Unit executed back in August of this year.
Updating our top stories, police moved in on an illegal drug lab near Guelph today. Earlier, 100 pounds of magic mushrooms were seized from a Hamilton residence. No charges have been laid yet.
We want to make sure our constituents feel safe at home. That's what it comes down to.
An update today on Canada's national action plan to combat auto theft. So far this year, more than 1,900 vehicles have been recovered. 620 of them were in the GTA. But some say more needs to be done. Ottawa is facing pressure to force car manufacturers to install and modernize anti-theft devices.
We are at a pivotal time, a pivotal moment of our city. Toronto is Canada's economic engine.
The city unveiled a 10-year action plan for the economy. The goal is to double Toronto's GDP within 25 years. A key priority is ensuring quality local jobs and supporting small business. Officials hope to have a long-term funding deal with the province in place by 2030.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app.
On the markets, the Canadian dollar was up almost 1/5 cent to 72.72 US. Oil was down to $58.50 a barrel, and the TSX Composite Index was up more than 122 points to close at 24,561.2.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
The Toronto Maple Leafs host LA tonight and could be without one of their key players. William Nylander will be a game-time decision.
I think there's improvement, so hopefully he's better later and able to play.
Nylander was not on the ice for the Leafs' optional skate this morning as he recovers from an illness. Goaltender Joseph Woll was back in the net after dealing with a lower body injury, but it appears that Anthony Stolarz will get the start this evening. Toronto is looking for a third straight win. Also on the hockey front, goalies, they don't score very often, but when they do, it's pretty remarkable.
Buchnevich fires in, looking for a goalie goal. Gustafsson scores!
Minnesota's Philip Gustafsson capped the Wild's 4-1 win over the St. Louis Blues last night. He shot the puck into an empty net. It's his first goal and the 18th goalie goal in NHL history. Meanwhile, the greatest goal scorer in soccer history played her final match on home soil last night, and Christine Sinclair did not disappoint.
The header down, Sinclair scores!
She never does. Sinclair scored for her Portland Thorns against the Vancouver Whitecaps FC Girls Elite at BC Place. Her team went on to win 6-0. This is Sinclair's final season with the NWSL Thorns. Next year, she will join the ownership group of the Vancouver Rise ahead of the inaugural Northern Super League season.
The Raptors managed to walk away with a win as they hosted the Celtics in preseason play last night.
Ramsey now on them. Walsh attacking. Shot doesn't go.
The game came down to the final shot, with the Raptors able to hold off the Celtics to secure a 119-118 win. The team will continue the preseason Friday against the Nets before the regular season begins October 23rd against Cleveland.
Just ahead, you have the option to tip when you pay for a meal, but how about the option to feed someone who could use a hot meal? How several North York restaurants are nourishing their neighbors. After the break.
Tonight, an Ontario woman alleges gang sexual assault by junior hockey players.
I hope one day that I can find peace again with myself.
Exclusive details about what happened when she contacted police. Later on CTV National News.
Finally tonight, an effort to pay it forward one meal at a time.
It's a unique form of giving. Some North York restaurants helping its customers serve up some kindness. CTV's Mike Walker has the story.
With regular meal?
It's the lunch rush at the Young Cafe and Bistro, where owner Elizabeth Evans is passionate about feeding her community.
Where you buy a meal, an act of kindness.
Especially people who may not be able to afford a hot meal.
May have lost a job, they're new to the country, they're struggling, and we see much more need all the time.
The cafe is participating in a community Pay It Forward campaign dubbed Nourish a Neighbor. The initiative encourages customers to pay for meals for people experiencing food insecurity. Those receipts are then posted near the register.
It's a selfless act, an act of kindness. Many times people want to do something and they just don't know where or what.
Currently, 4 restaurants in the Willowdale neighborhood are supporting the campaign. The manager at Haven Brew says there has been a tremendous response.
A lot of customers see the program and they ask for the details. And when I explain it to them, they will find the programs meaningful. Like we serve a customer paying like over 10 meals at once.
Customers covering the cost of coffees and sandwiches, a small gesture she says is a big help for those who need it most.
Some of them come back regularly. They're actually feeling grateful.
The campaign was spearheaded by Neighborlink. The small charity operates a monthly food bank and other support services in Willowdale.
We know that 18% of the 56,000 households in Willowdale specifically are experiencing poverty. So knowing that neighbors are helping neighbors by paying it forward has also helped us because it's just another avenue in which we're able to support.
So far, more than 200 meals have been provided since the campaign started earlier this year. Kevin contributes regularly.
And it's just so important because there's obviously a need for it.
Aware of the demand, Evans will pay out of pocket if receipts are not available.
I think we're all humans, first of all, no matter where you come from or what you do. So when we can, we definitely will provide a meal.
Neighborlink is hoping more businesses will get behind the cause. Mike Walker, CTV News.
I'm sure they will. The sun has set. We're just admiring the beautiful colors, and there's beautiful days ahead, but we do have some frost tonight.
If you want to keep rocking the shorts and t-shirt, you absolutely can, but maybe wait till Friday. It is going to get significantly warmer, and we're not record-breaking by any means, but it is going to be warmer than usual as we head in towards the end of the week. Tonight, though, it is fresh. We are under a frost advisory here, so if you still have some of those temperature-sensitive plants out there, maybe cover them. And if you're getting ready to decorate, maybe for Halloween, wait till the weekend. Right now, we're sitting at about 9 degrees. Here in the city, we're at 12 through Windsor, 10 in Niagara, and 8 out in Ottawa. If you're getting your steps in tonight, a layer probably needed, but honestly, by the time we get to the day tomorrow, the warming trend begins.
Let it begin. Thank you, Jess. That's it for us, but you can join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.